Alexander Armstrong, and this is Pointless, the quiz show where the lowest scorers are the biggest winners. To stay in the game, our contestants need to score as few points as possible. And the way they do that is by giving those obscure answers that everyone else forgot. We've asked all our questions on Pointless to 100 people before the show. All our contestants have to do is find those little-known answers that as few of our 100 people gave as possible. So, for example, we gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many Spanish-speaking countries as they could, and we found out that 94 of them said Spain. I'd love to meet those 6 that didn't. An obvious answer that would score you a horribly high 94 points. However, only 26 of them said Argentina, a lesser-known country that would score you a respectably low 26 points. Occasionally, there are even some answers that none of our 100 people could name. So, for example, none of them said Guatemala. So that would have been a truly pointless country, and it would score you absolutely nothing. That's exactly what you want. And if you find any of those pointless answers, then we will add £250 to today's jackpot. So let's meet today's players. Welcome, Ken and Hazel. You're our first pair on the show. How do you two know each other?
This is my toy boy. We've been married 25 years. We're now retired caterers. And we had our silver wedding just before Christmas.
Who did the catering for that?
We didn't go anywhere.
Oh, I see. Splendid. Well, best of luck on the show. Our second pair, Saeed and Tony. Welcome to the show. How do you two know each other?
Well, we met went to school at the age of 4, a mere 20 years ago, obviously.
Yeah.
Been friends ever since.
Brilliant. Well, I hope that long friendship stands you in good stead this afternoon. On to our next pair, Chris and Emily. Welcome back. We give everyone 2 chances to reach the Pointless final, and today is your final chance. Remind us how you two know each other.
We've been going out for just under a year. We met at university in Plymouth. We're hoping to do a bit better today, so...
Fantastic. Yeah, what went wrong last time?
We gave wrong answers.
Anyway, on to our fourth pair. Welcome to George and Katie. How do you two know each other?
Hello, Katie's my granddaughter, born when I was 23. Can't say much else except I love her to bits.
And finally, we have got Pete and Andy. Welcome to the show. How do you two know each other?
Hi there, yes. I met this young man 10 years ago when we both played for the same football team. I was Pete's goalie and he was my rubbish defender.
I still kept my agile physique and...
I didn't.
Very useful in a goalkeeper, though. Not much going to get past you. I am joking, of course. As ever, there is one final person I need to introduce. He is the man with all the pointless facts at his fingertips. He is my pointless friend. It's Richard. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm extremely well. You know what sort of show we have today.
That's exactly right. I've got every single question and every single answer on today's show right here. At the end of each round, I'll be giving all the pointless answers. Those are the answers that nobody out of our 100 said. I'll also give you the worst answers you can possibly give, the really obvious things that everyone says to each question. I should point out, you don't know any of the questions or answers in today's show, so it's always a surprise to you. That look of surprise is genuine. That ain't acting.
Nah, no way, no how. The jackpot hasn't been won in the last 3 shows, so it rolls over, and today's jackpot total stands at £4,750. But remember, if you find some pointless answers along the way, each one of them will add £250 to that amount. Let's play Pointless. In the first round, each of you must give me one answer and you cannot confer with your partner. You will score 1 point for every one of those 100 people that gave that same answer. And remember, this is pointless, so you're trying to score as little as possible. So you've got to look for those obscure answers. If anyone gives me an incorrect answer, though, they will score the maximum of 100 points, so do be careful. If you do give an incorrect answer, this will happen. You really don't want to see that. At the end of the round, your combined scores will be totalled up and the highest scoring pair will be eliminated. Only 2 pairs will make it through to the head-to-head semi-final, so the pressure really is on. Our first category is movie stars. Can you all decide in your pairs who's going to go first, who's going to go second?
OK.
I'll defer to you.
Right, whoever's going first, please step up to the podium. We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many feature films starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as they could. Richard, elaborate.
I've just seen sort of looks of horror from across every contestant. What we're looking for are feature films made for cinema release for which the Governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, has received an acting credit. We're not looking for short films or documentaries. We're not looking for things where he played himself. But we are looking for voice recordings as well. If he's done a voice recording on a film, that counts.
Right, well, Ken and Hazel, before the show, you all drew lots, and it turns out you will be starting us off. Hazel, you're first up. What are you going to say?
Twins.
Twins. We're trying to score as little as possible. That's what you've got to remember. We're hoping that as few of our 100 people said twins as possible. Twins. That's a correct answer. 57. That means that 57 of our 100 people said twins. Saeed, you're next.
Unfortunately, I don't suffer from this, or I don't benefit from it, but I think he was in Total Recall.
I believe he might have been. Let's see. How many of our 100 people said Total Recall? It's a correct answer. 22. That means that 22 of our 100 people said Total Recall. On to our next pair. Emily, remember, we are looking for feature films starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I'm going to say Kindergarten Cop.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Kindergarten Cop. It's the right answer. Oh, it's good. Look at that. 31. That means 31 of our 100 people said Kindergarten Cop. On to our fourth pair. Katie, what are you going to say?
I'm thinking he was in something maybe called Junior.
Something maybe called Junior. Well, let's see if he was in something called Junior. And if he was, how many of our 100 people said it? If it's wrong, of course. Oh, it's not wrong. Oh, it's very good. Look at that. It's going all the way down, 13. He was very definitely in something called Junior. That means 13 of our 100 people said Junior. On to our final pair. Pete, we're looking for feature films starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I don't know many of his films. The only one I can think of is Conan the Barbarian.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Conan the Barbarian. It's good. It's very good. Look at that. 14. That means that 14 of our 100 people remembered Conan the Barbarian. OK, we're halfway through the round. Let's see where we are on the scores. George and Katie looking fantastic on 13 there. A lovely low score. Keep up that low scoring and you'll definitely be through to the next round. Things not looking quite so hot for Hazel and Ken, though, I'm afraid. 57, looking a little bit vulnerable. You've got to hope everyone else scores high on this next pass, and you've got to try and score as low as you possibly can. OK, we're going to come back up the line. Can the second players please take their places at the podium? OK, Andy, remember, you are on 14. Ken and Hazel currently on 57. To be absolutely safe, you want to be scoring 42 or less. There is the red line. That means if you come in below that red line, you are definitely safe and through to the next round. Remember, we are looking for feature films starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. What answer are you going to give me?
I think one of his very early films when he came over here was Hercules in New York.
Hercules in New York. Oh, that's fantastic. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Hercules in New York. Any wrong answer, of course, will score you the maximum of 100 points. But this is right. You're safe. Oh, it's good. Look at that. One. That means that one person out of our 100 people remembered Hercules in New York. That brings your total up to 15, and that sees you comfortably through to the next round. On to our next pair, George and Katie. Ken and Hazel are our current high scorers. To be under their high score, you want to be scoring 43 or less. There is the red line. You have to be below that.
Try Bullet.
You're going to try Bullet. An incorrect answer will score you 100 points. Let's try Bullet. See how many of our 100 people said that. Oh! Bad luck. That, I'm afraid, is an incorrect answer, and you have scored the maximum of 100 points. But that does take your score up to 113. You are now the current high scorers. On to our next pair. Chris, I'm going to remind you, you were on 31. George and Katie are now our high scorers. To be absolutely safe, you want to be scoring 81 or less.
Yeah, OK. I think I'm going to go for Terminator 2.
Oh, I like that. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Terminator 2. You're safe. Very good. That takes your score up to 77. On to our next pair. Tony, what are you going to say? You're currently on 22. The high scorers are George and Katie, still on 113. You need to score 90 or less to be absolutely safe.
I'll go for Raw Deal.
Raw Deal. Fantastic. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Raw Deal. You're safe. Oh, look at that. That takes your total up to 25. You are sailing through to the next round. OK, things get interesting now, Ken. You've got to score 55 or less to be absolutely safe.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say the Terminator.
You're going to go with the Terminator. To be safe, you have to be coming in under that red line. You come in under that red line, George and Katie are leaving. You come in over that red line, and I'm afraid it's you and Hazel who will be leaving at the end of this round. Let's see how many of our 100 people said the Terminator. Oh! Ken.
I know. I'll get my coat.
I'm afraid that means 88 out of our 100 people said the Terminator, which brings your total up to 145, and I'm afraid that does mean you are our highest scorers. That's the end of round one, and the losing pair with that awfully high score, has to be said, are Ken and Hazel. Richard, what answer should they have gone for if they'd wanted to stay in the game?
Well, I was going to say he did make a lot of Terminators. If you said Terminator 3, you'd very much still be in the game.
Oh, right.
There were 3 pointless answers. Those are the answers that none of our 100 people could remember. Stay Hungry, which you made in 1976, Scavenger Hunt in 1979 with Face from the A-Team, and Around the World in 80 Days, which is from 2004. Now, ordinarily at this point, Ken and Hazel, we asked people to guess the worst possible answers. What were the most obvious, the most popular ones? Now, number 3 was Terminator 2, which Chris and Emily said. Hazel, you gave us Twins, which was second. And Ken, obviously, you gave us Terminator. So pretty impressive.
OK, Ken and Hazel, remember, everyone does get 2 chances to reach our pointless final, so we'll see you again next time. But thank you so much for playing. You've been fantastic. For the remaining 4 pairs, though, it's time for round 2. OK, guys, the round 2 category is flags. That's fun. So can you decide in your pairs who's going first and who's going second?
Yeah, you can go.
And whoever's going first, please step up to the podium. Now, remember, Pointless is all about scoring the fewest points. You're looking for those answers that the fewest of our 100 people said. We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many red, white and blue flags of the world. Richard, can you be more specific?
Yeah, again, you can hide your delight if you wish. Any flag which contains no other colour except red, white and blue, that includes even a black outline on a picture or anything, that would be discounted. Just red, white and blue on the national flag. There are, in the world, 25 such flags. And as you can imagine, there are a fair few pointless ones.
OK. Tony and Saeed, you're going first. Tony, what are you going to say?
I'm going to go with France.
France. The famous tricolore. Let's see, how many of our 100 people said France? I'm afraid 84 of our 100 people said France. You have scored 84. Moving on. Emily and Chris. Emily.
Australia.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Australia. It's a correct answer. It's good. That means 42 of our 100 people said that. Gives you a score of 42, exactly half of Tony and Saeed's score. On to our third pair, George and Katie. George, what are you going to say?
I will choose New Zealand.
New Zealand. Very good. Let's see how many of our 100 people said New Zealand. It's the right answer. There we go. Very good. That means 24 of our 100 people said New Zealand. Gives you a score of 24. OK, Pete and Andy, remember, we're looking for red, white and blue flags of the world.
I'm going to take a chance on this one. I'm not too sure. I know a young lad who's just gone there, so I think Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Very good. OK, well, let's see how many of our 100 people said Costa Rica. If it is incorrect, of course, you will score the maximum of 100 points. Let's hope it's not. It's good. Look at that. One. Very well done. That means only one person out of our 100 people said Costa Rica. We're halfway through the round, so let's see how we are doing. Well, things looking fantastic for Pete and Andy. 1 there. That's a fabulously low score. You keep that low scoring up and you're definitely in the next round. Things looking a little bit more cagey for Saeed on Tony on 84. You've got to hope everyone else scores really high, and you've got to look for a pointless answer on the next pass. OK, we're going to come back up the line. Will the second players please take their places at the podium? OK, Andy, we are looking for red, white and blue flags of the world. You are currently our low scorers on 1. If you want to be absolutely safe, you want to be scoring 82 or less. That will keep you below Saeed and Tony's total of 84. There is the red line. If you're below that red line, you're safe.
Struggling. I have to go for the UK, Britain.
OK, well, that's definitely a correct answer. Let's see how many of our 100 people said UK. Oh! 85 of our 100 people said the United Kingdom. That brings your score up to 86. That does, I'm afraid, mean you are our current high scorers. But there's only 2 points in it between you and Tony and Saeed, and they've got another answer to give. So on to our next pair, Katie and George. Katie, your turn.
Yeah, this really isn't my strong subject.
Well, you're currently on 24. To be absolutely safe and to come in below Andy and Pete's total, you want to be scoring 61 or less.
OK. I'm going to go for the United States of America.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said the United States of America. Oh! That means 67 of our 100 people said the United States of America. That takes your total up to 91. And you are now our front runners. Looking a little bit vulnerable there on 91. On to our next pair. Chris, what are you going to say?
I'm going to go with one I think is safe and say Russia.
You're going to go with Russia. George and Katie on 91. To be absolutely safe, you want to be scoring 48 or less with Russia. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Russia. You're safe. Oh, very good. Very good. That means that 11 of our 100 people said Russia. That brings your total up to 53. OK, things get quite exciting now. Saeed and Tony, you were our highest scorers. You've been overtaken by Katie and George, but you are on 84. You're only 7 points below them. If you want to be staying in the game, you're going to have to score 6 or less with this answer. What's it going to be, Saeed?
I'm going to go for Slovakia.
You see that red line down there? You have to get below that red line if you're going to stay in the game. Above that red line, Katie and George, you're sailing through to the next round. Below that red line, Katie and George, you're walking. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Slovakia. comes. Bad luck, Katie and George. That means only one person out of our 100 said Slovakia. That brings your total up to 85. And I'm afraid it means, Katie and George, you are our highest scorers.
One's not a bad score to be beaten by us.
It's not. And you are coming back, so don't worry about that. George, are you feeling you've been let down by Katie?
She could never let me down.
No, I'm glad to hear that. Well, splendid. You're going to be back next time. Richard, we'd have loved to have kept them on. What answers should they have given if they'd wanted to stay in the game?
Well, there were 5 pointless answers here. If you've got any of these at home, very well done. The first one, Nepal. North Korea have a red, white and blue flag, as does Panama. If you got that, well done. 2 others. There was Puerto Rico and Samoa. For the second round in a row, I don't think we've ever had this before, all 3 of the most obvious answers have gone. Katie, you gave us the United States of America. That was 3rd. Tony gave us France. And, of course, the very worst answer of all was given to us by Andy, who still made it through, so don't worry, it's the United Kingdom, 85.
Well, thanks very much, Richard. OK, George and Katie, you've wasted one of your chances to get through to the Pointless final, so we have to say goodbye to you for today, but we'll see you next time for your last chance. Thanks so much for playing. For the remaining 3 pairs, though, it's time for round 3. Of course, only 2 pairs will make it through to the head-to-head, so this is your final chance. All of you need to find those low-scoring answers to stay in the game. The round 3 category is religion. Religion. OK, so as ever, who's going to go first? Who's going to go second? And whoever's going first, will you please step up to the podium? We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many books of the Old Testament as they could. Richard, fill us in.
We're looking for any of the 36 names of books in the Old Testament in the King James Version. Sometimes names also have numbers attached to them. So, for example, in the New Testament, you have 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians. And in that case, we would just take Corinthians, and that goes the same for the Old Testament. We just the name. And there's 36 of them.
Very good. Thank you very much, Richard. I wonder if that's made things much clearer for our contestants. Remember, you need to score the fewest points. So you need to give that answer that the fewest of our 100 people said. OK, Tony and Saeed, you're first. Tony, what are you going to say?
I'll try Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy, very good. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Deuteronomy. It's a correct answer. It's good, look at that. 28. That means that 28 of our 100 people said Deuteronomy, and it scores you 28 points. On to Emily. You look like you've got a humdinger there.
Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb. Exodus.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Exodus. It's not bad. That means 44 of our 100 people said Exodus. That scores you 44, Emily. Not bad. On to our final pair. Pete.
I'm going to go for Habakkuk.
You're going to go for?
Habakkuk.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Habakkuk. It's good. It's very good. Look at that. Yes! That means that none of our 100 people said Habakkuk, and it adds £250 to today's jackpot. Takes the total up to £5,000. Brilliant. OK, well, we're halfway through the round. Let's see where we are on the scoreboard. Obviously, Pete and Andy are doing fantastically well on 0 there. You keep up that low scoring and you are hopping through to the next round. Chris and Emily looking a little bit vulnerable there on 44. You've got to hope everyone else scores high and you score low in the next pass. OK, we're going to come back down the line. Can the second players please take their places at the podium? OK, Andy, we are looking for books of the Old Testament. You're currently on 0, fantastically low score. Our high scorers are Chris and Emily on 44. If you want to be under 44, you want to be scoring 43 or less. You want to be coming in below this red line here.
There is one I think I'm taking a chance with.
Take a chance, you can afford to, come on.
I believe it was the Epistles.
The Epistles. Let's see, how many of our 100 people said the Epistles? Oh! Bad luck. Unfortunately, that is a wrong answer, which means that you score 100 points. Having been the low scorers on 0, you are now our front runners, our high scorers on 100. Richard, the Epistles.
Well, yeah, the Epistles are actually a series of books in the New Testament, such as the Epistle of St. Paul to the Corinthians and that have it. It's not in the Old Testament, I'm afraid.
Very good. Bad luck. OK, on to our next pair, Chris and Emily. I'm just going to remind you where you stand. Our high scorers at the moment are Andy and Pete on 100. You want to be coming in at 55 or less to be absolutely safe. Chris, what are you going to say?
I think this is one. I'm going to say Leviticus.
Leviticus. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Leviticus. It's a correct answer. It's good. It's very good. Look at that, 7. That means 7 of our 100 people said Leviticus. That brings your score up to 51. OK, on to Saeed and Tony. You're currently on 28. You're a cool 72 points behind Andy and Pete. That means you want to be scoring 71 or less with your answer to be absolutely safe. We are looking for books of the Old Testament.
Indeed. Well, with my very hazy recollection, I think there were some books with fairly general titles, of which one of them, I think, bearing in mind the nature of this game, was Numbers. So I'll go with Numbers.
Very good. Numbers. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Numbers. It's the right answer. You're safe. Very good. That means that 29 of our 100 people said Numbers. That brings your total up to 57. Oh, it's bad news, I'm afraid, for Andy and Pete. You are our high scorers at the end of that round. I'm afraid that means you will be leaving the game. That was tough. Pete, you really did know your books of the Old Testament, didn't you?
I like to think I know some of them, so shame my partner didn't, but there you go.
Oh, it's bad luck. Dear,
Could be a long train ride home.
It could, well...
On his own.
Anyway, Richard, if they'd wanted to stay in, what could they have gone for?
Well, there were 8 pointless answers. These are the answers that none of our 100 people could remember. We obviously had one of them already, which was Habakkuk, Ecclesiastes, and Obadiah. There are then 6 books which are all in order just before the end of the Old Testament. And if anybody out there is about to have a son, there are some names coming up for you here that you can choose from. Micah is one of them. That was a pointless answer. Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, lovely name for a boy. And then there are a couple more. Haggai.
Not for a girl, that one, I think.
Well, Haggai?
Not really.
Haggai's
no.
quite nice for a girl. And Zechariah, of course, but everyone's called Zechariah these days, so a little bit too popular in the playground, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Let's take a look at the worst answers of all that you could have said, the most obvious answers. We've already had 2 of them. In third was Numbers, which we have already had. In second, it was Exodus. And, of course, the worst possible answer you could have given, anybody? Genesis, exactly right. The worst, the most obvious answer you could have given, 74. OK,
Pete and Andy, you've wasted one of your chances to get to the pointless final, so we have to say goodbye to you for today, but we will see you next time for your last chance. Thank you so much for playing. You've been great. Thank you. But for the remaining 2 pairs, things are about to get really exciting now as we enter the head-to-head. So well done, Chris and Emily, Saeed and Tony. You've made it through to the head-to-head. Now, only one pair obviously can make it through to today's final and play for today's jackpot, which currently stands, would you believe it, at £5,000. OK, here's how the head-to-head works. You are now allowed to confer. Each team will take turns to give me an answer, and you'll each have an equal number of turns. The first team that accumulates more than 100 points, or the team that goes over 100 by the most, will lose. So, as always, to stay in the game, you want to score as few points as possible by saying those answers that the fewest of our 100 people gave. OK, Saeed and Tony, you performed best over the first 3 rounds. So not only do you get to decide whether or not you go first, you also get to choose the category. And your choice is between soap characters or athletic events. What would you like?
We'd like soap characters, please, Andy.
Soap characters. OK, and would you like to go first or second?
So you can get it out of the way?
Yeah.
Yes, we'd like to go first, please.
Get it out the way. OK, well, let's play Pointless. We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many members of the Mitchell family in EastEnders as they could. Richard, can you be any more specific, please?
Yeah, we're looking for the first name of anybody who's played a Mitchell on screen. It's either through birth or through marriage. There are 21 of them. There's a very specific note here, which I should read out probably. We're not including Danielle Jones, who was born a Mitchell, but never appeared as a Mitchell on the show.
Very good. Thanks, Richard. Now, remember, you don't want to go over 100, so you want to score the lowest number of points each time. What are those EastEnders Mitchell characters that nobody else could think of? OK, Saeed and Tony, you've elected to go first. What's it going to be?
We'll say Baby Amy.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Baby Amy. That, of course, means that only 4 of our 100 people said Baby Amy, and that gives you an impressively low score of 4 after your first answer. Chris and Emily, your first answer, please.
Samantha Mitchell.
Samantha Mitchell.
Yeah.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Samantha Mitchell. It's a correct answer. Oh, it's good, it's good. OK, 28 of our 100 people said Samantha Mitchell. That gives you a score of 28. You've each given 1 answer. Tony and Saeed, you are on 4. Chris and Emily, a little bit ahead on 28. OK, Tony and Saeed, remember, you need to be careful now. Your next answer has to score 96 or less to avoid going over 100. There is the red line. You have to come below that. Remember, we are looking for those EastEnders Mitchell characters that nobody else could think of.
We'll try honey.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said honey. Good. Oh, it's another low one. Look at that. 5. That means that 5 of our 100 people said honey, and that takes your score after your second answer up to 9. OK, Chris and Emily, it's now your second answer. You are currently on 28. You are the high scorers. To be absolutely safe and avoid going over 100, you want to be scoring 72 or less. Remember, we are looking for those EastEnders Mitchell characters that nobody else could think of. What answer are you going to give me?
We're going to say Janet.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Janet. Good. Oh, it's very good. Look at that. 2. That's more like it, Chris and Emily. That means only 2 of our 100 people said Janet. That takes your total after 2 answers up to 30. You are still the high scorers. You've got to hope that Tony and Saeed start scoring high. Tony and Saeed, you are currently on 9. To be absolutely safe, to avoid going over 100, you need to score 91 or less. What are you going to go for this time?
We're going to go for Kathy.
How many of our 100 people said Kathy? Well done. Down it goes. It's another good one. That means 7 of our 100 people said Kathy. That takes your total up to 16. Chris and Emily, you've answered twice and your score is 30. To avoid going over 100, you have to be scoring 70 or less. There's the red line. You must be below that. What's your third answer going to be?
We think there's a baby Courtney.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Courtney. It's good. You're safe. Oh, it's very good. Look at that. Fantastic. That means only one person. What a shame that one person remembered Courtney. Otherwise, it'd been pointless. Been more money in the pot. After 3 answers each, you are on 31. Tony and Saeed are on 16. OK, Tony and Saeed, time for your 4th answer. You're on 16. You're the low scorers at the moment. To be absolutely safe and avoid going over 100, you want to be giving me an answer that scores 84 or less. Members of the Mitchell family in EastEnders.
Yeah. I suppose we're going to have to throw Tiffany into the ring.
Throw Tiffany into the ring. I like what you've done there. We're going to throw Tiffany into the ring, see how many of our 100 people said Tiffany. Are you safe? Oh, it's good. Look at that. 8 points. That means 8 of our 100 people said Tiffany. That takes your total after 4 answers up to 24. Chris and Emily, it's over to you. You are on 31. You are the high scorers at the moment. To be safe, you have to be scoring 69 or less. That will prevent you going over 100.
Okay, we think she married Phil Mitchell and Lisa.
Lisa. How many of our 100 people said Lisa? Oh, no! I'm afraid that is a wrong answer, and that scores you the maximum of 100 points. You've now had 4 turns each, and Chris and Emily, you have gone over the 100-point mark, and I'm afraid that means that you are off the show. You were doing so well there, though. How many other Mitchells did you have in your arsenal?
I've got quite a few left. I was sure Lisa was one.
Oh, dear. Well, we will find out. Richard, what other Mitchells could they have pulled out of the bag?
Well, that was unfortunate. You had Lisa Fowler, who ran off with Phil and had a baby with Phil. But tragically for you, never married Phil.
No.
There were 3 pointless answers. And speaking of Phil Mitchell, it's like a catalogue of disasters for him. There's Kate, who he married, of course, who was the undercover policewoman. There was Louise, who was Phil and Lisa's daughter. And there was Nadia, who Phil married very early on. So Phil's given us all of our pointless answers. The worst answers you could have gone for, we've mentioned him 50 times already. Phil was 3rd, Peggy 2nd. And who do you think was first, the most obvious answer of all?
Grant.
Let's have a look. Yeah, Grant. The worst answer you could have given.
Thanks very much, Richard. Chris and Emily, this was your 2nd and final chance on the show. It's been fantastic having you on the show. Thanks very much, and goodbye. Thanks for playing. But for Saeed and Tony, it's time for our pointless final. Congratulations, Saeed and Tony. It's only your first time on the show and you've made it to the end of Pointless. You've fought off all the competition and you've won our coveted Pointless trophy. Now you've got a chance to win our Pointless jackpot. Nobody's won the jackpot for the last 3 shows. In fact, the jackpot's only been won once this series so far. Today's jackpot stands at £5,000. OK, the rules are very simple. To win the money, all you have to do is find a pointless answer that none of our 100 people could think of. First, you've got to choose a category from these 3 options. You can go for British sporting legends, British girl bands, or prize-winning artists. What's it going to be?
I quite fancy British girl bands.
British girl bands was the one that leapt out at me first of all.
They do that, don't they?
Yes. Yeah, we'll go straight down the middle with the British girl bands.
Very good. So, we gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many Girls Aloud top 40 singles as they could. Richard, elaborate.
Yes, it's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are essentially looking for any single released by Girls Aloud in the UK that's reached the official UK top 40. We're not looking for any solo tracks by any of the artists, but we will allow collaborations with other groups or artists. There's 21 of them.
21?
21 top 40 hits they've had.
Wow, so lots to choose from, Saeed and Tony.
Woohoo.
OK, you now have up to 1 minute to come up with the 3 answers. All you need to do to win that £5,000 jackpot is to find a pointless answer. One of those answers has to be pointless. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Right. Okay, well, if we're talking about collaborations, then that one they did for Comic Relief with the Sugar Babes.
Sugar
which was
Babes.
Walk This Way.
Walk This Way, that's the Aerosmith one,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, not Call the Shots. No, hang on. The Loving Kind. That was one of their lower hits. That was produced by the Pet Shop Boys.
Okay. Oh yes.
Other than that, well, I'm kind of struggling.
Well, there's some more popular ones,
Nearly all of them made the top 10 as far as I recall.
Okay, well, that doesn't eliminate them. What do we want to say? So we've got those two anyway.
Yeah,
so we'll go for those two.
We still have 30 seconds left at a time.
Just trying to think of a really...
Promise.
Yeah, Wake Me
Promise
Up.
You made. Wake Me Up.
Promise You Made, that's not...
Yes.
No, that was a big one.
That was a big hit, yeah.
Crumbs, what's that one I use?
15 seconds left.
Wake Me Up.
Wake Me Up.
Did we say that?
No, you didn't say that.
Right, okay, well, yeah, so...
Okay, so we'll go for those three.
Wake Me Up, The Loving Kind,
And Walk This Way. Okay.
Fantastic. You've come up with 3 Girls Aloud singles. That in itself, I think, deserves the trophy. Let's hope that at least one of those is utterly pointless. OK, what are those 3 answers going to be?
Wake Me Up,
Wake Me Up,
Walk This Way,
Walk This Way,
and The Loving Kind.
and The Loving Kind. God, it's impressive, isn't it? OK. Wake Me Up, Walk This Way, and The Loving Kind. OK, let's see. How many of our 100 people went with your first answer? Wake Me Up. Remember, we're looking for Girls Aloud singles. This has to be pointless. For £5,000. OK, to win the jackpot, this has to be pointless. This is your first answer. Wake Me Up. Oh, it's good. It's going down.
Well done.
Stone me. Well, congratulations. You've managed to find that all-important, pointless answer just with your first answer. That means you go home with the jackpot of £5,000. Well done. You look quite shocked when that question came
Very,
up.
yes.
Girls Aloud.
I didn't think that was the strongest answer at all, but...
I was really impressed. You were reeling off all those singles. Saeed, were you confident about Girls Aloud, or were you
I was
relying on
confident
Tony?
that Tony would know about it, yes.
Very good, very good. Fantastic. Well, that's brilliant. Richard, so what about that for Girls Aloud know-how?
That was generally enormously impressive. Walk This Way, your second answer, that was pointless as well.
Oh. What about that?
The Loving Kind, your third answer, absolutely let your standards slip. One person said The Loving Kind. That's enormously impressive. There was one other pointless answer, which was Life Got Cold. That would have been a pointless as well. But you know what? Who cares?
You are only the second people this series to win the jackpot. Massive congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Fantastic. You've been great. Saeed and Tony won today's jackpot. Join us next time when we put more obscure knowledge and forgotten facts to the test on Pointless. Goodbye from Richard.
Goodbye.
And goodbye from me. Goodbye.